Okay, so continuing on with our solving of inequalities. The next thing we're going to look at is an inequality that is a very simple equation that actually has a step beyond just it's greater than or equal. So let's look at this. X plus 3 is greater than or equal to 6. As I said earlier, you will solve it very much like an equation. So let's do that. Remember, in solving equations, you're wanting to isolate your variable. So to do that, we have to eliminate the addition of 3. To eliminate the addition of 3, we have to subtract 3. So 3 minus 3 makes 0. Then you have to do the same thing to the other side. As you do that, this becomes 0, and you're left with x plus 0, which is just simply x, is greater than or equal to 6 minus 3 gives you 3. So now we have solved our inequality, and our next step now is to put it on the number line. So we're going to draw our number line. We're going to establish our point 0. 1, 2, 3. There's the number we're looking for. Now, what are we going to do with this? Again, where do you look first? You look right here at this inequality symbol. Is it only greater than, or is it greater than or equal to? It's greater than or equal to. Remember, you're either going to use a closed circle or you are going to use a bracket. In our case today, we are going to use the bracket because I want to go the next step beyond. So the bracket here at 3 indicates that 3 is included. Our arrow is pointing to the right. Therefore, our little feet on our bracket point to the right. Our solution also goes to the right because 4, 5, 6 are greater than 3. And it keeps going and never stops and goes to infinity. Now, the next step is to take this solution and put it into interval notation. Interval notation means that from this number, it's going to have all this in it, and we write it in the following fashion. I tell my students, read it like a book. So if you go from left to right, the first thing you're going to hit is the bracket with the 3. You see that? That's where your interval of solution begins. And then as you keep going to the right, you run to the infinity. And remember, infinity never stops. It is not definite. You cannot make a precise number for infinity. Therefore, infinity being indefinite always takes the parentheses. So the infinity uses the parentheses to close out that interval notation. And that takes care of the solution in equation format, the solution in number line format, and now your solution in interval notation format. You need to know all 3, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and look at the next possible step where it's a little more solving to get to the answer. So equation I have is 2x minus 3 less than or equal to 9. Again, a step up from what we've been doing. This will take 2 steps to get there. So again, to isolate the term that has the variable in it, we have to eliminate this. It's a minus 3. The opposite of that is a plus 3. Negative 3 plus 3 equals that 0 we're talking about. So that will eliminate each other. But I added 3 here, so I also must add 3 onto the other side of that inequality. Over here now I have 2x minus 0, which is just simply 2x, is less than or equal to 9 plus 3 is 12. Okay? Remember doing that with equations? Yep, that's right. Now we're still going to have to isolate this x. How do I get x by itself? This is a multiplication. To undo multiplication, you divide by the exact coefficient that's in front of the x. And then you do the same to the other side. 2 divided by 2 produces the number 1. So you have 1x is less than or equal to 12 divided by 2 is 6. Or 1x is the same as just x, less than or equal to 6. Now, next step is to put this on the number line. Again, I put my 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6. This one says my solution is smaller than that 6. Well, what is smaller than the 6? Things in this way, 0, 1, 2, -1, -2. Those are smaller than 6. Again, it has a less than or equal. Therefore, you're going to use either the open circle or the bracket. And I'm going to use the bracket because I'm going to go to interval notation again. Now, in using my bracket, see that arrow? It's pointing to the left. Therefore, all of my solution runs to the left, and it never stops, so it keeps going all the way to negative infinity. And again, remember, negative infinity is just an expression for something that has no end. All right, so now let's look at going to interval notation with this. Again, reading it like a book from left to right. The first thing you're going to hit is that negative infinity. And do you remember what kind of a symbol a positive infinity took? Yeah, that's right, it's a parentheses. So we'll use the parentheses again. Why? Because it is not precise. And then it's going to go on until you get to 6, where it stops with its bracket. So here's your interval notation, your number line, and your inequality solution. And that's the next step. And then we're going to move on to the next one. We're just trying to step it up to more and more difficult problems. Next one, negative 3x plus 3 less than or equal to 2x minus 12. I hope you remember doing these in equation format. Same type of thing. What have you seen me doing? I keep my x's on the left side of the inequality. Therefore, my 2x on the right, I'm going to move it to the other side by doing the opposite of the positive 2x, which is minus 2x, and that produces 0. So I now have negative 5x plus 3 is less than or equal to a negative 12, because this is 0. 0 minus 12 is negative 12. Now again, isolating my 5x. My negative 5x, I'm going to have to do the opposite of the plus 3, and that makes a minus 3. This produces 0, so that's gone. And now I have a negative 5x less than or equal to a negative 15. Now, do you remember me talking in the very first part about the difference between equalities and inequalities? Do you remember that? We talked about dividing by a negative number and what that does to it. Here's our case. Our coefficient in front of x is a negative 5. Therefore, we must multiply by negative 5 on both sides because we want to make one x, or just plain x. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive 1. So we end up with positive 1x, or simply x. And remember what I said about the inequality? Yeah, it changes direction, doesn't it? So that less than becomes greater than or equal to, and negative 15 divided by negative 5 is a positive 3. See how that flipped direction? Really important, don't forget it. Now to go to the number line. Again, we've got 0, 1, 2, 3. And on this one, it's greater than or equal to 3. So the numbers bigger than 3 are 4, 5, 6, which are up in this area. So 3 is going to be a bracket because it's included. It's got that equal part of it right there. And it's going to go on into infinity, a positive infinity. And again, notice the little arrow here points in the direction that your solution goes. So now you've got the inequality, you've got the number line solution. The last one is to transfer that to your interval notation. So as you read from left to right, like you read a book, first thing you're going to hit is the bracket with its 3, and then it's going to go on and on into infinity, which always uses what? That's right, the parentheses. Now, That's that basic one. We've got one more style we're going to do. And we'll do two forms of it. And then that'll be the end of this one. We have -6 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 3. Notice this is a little bit different from anything we've done so far. This one has a number, your variable, and a number. And these are related to each other with less than or greater than. Notice that the number on the left is smaller than the number on the right. This could also have been written in another format, such as 3 greater than or equal to x greater than or equal to -6. But if you write it in this format, it's hard to do, and sometimes we get confused and we don't get the correct answer because of the confusion. So if you see something like this, where the number on the left is not the smallest, I would change it by reading backwards to this one over here. So we'll erase that one because we're not going to use that one. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, what's my smallest possible number for my solution? It's the -6. Why? If we were to read that this way, going this way, it's x is greater than or equal to -6. Okay? So let's put that on the number line. Here's my 0. There's -6. Since it's equal to that, we're going to have our bracket, or you could have a closed-in circle. And then the biggest possible number is that 3, and it also has the bracket because it also is the equal with the inequality sign. Now, your solution is between these two numbers. I call this one a sandwich effect. Here's your bread, here's your bread, here's your peanut butter and jelly in the middle, because those numbers sandwich the solution. So anyway, that's a good one. If we broke it down, we'd have x is greater than or equal to -6. We'd also have x is less than or equal to 3. By just taking this part off, we have that part. By taking this part off, you have that part. And so looking at this individually, x is greater than or equal to -6, that's this way. This one, x is less than or equal to 3, that's this way. You see how they're coming together in the middle there. So that's the sandwich. Now, are we finished? If they ask for interval notation, we are not yet finished. So thinking of your interval notation, again, read it like a book as you're going from left to right. What do you hit first? Yeah, that's right. The bracket with its -6. And where do you finish? Yeah, I hear that. The 3 with its bracket. And there's your interval notation. The last one we're going to look at is where you have more than a variable in the middle. So we're going to look at -3 less than or equal to x minus 2 less than 4. Now note on this one, I don't have the same inequality on both of them. I changed it up just a little bit, okay? So let's look at this. First of all, x is not alone. So the first thing you're going to do is get x all by itself by doing the opposite. The opposite of -2 is a +2. So that makes that 0, but we have to do the same on this side and the same on this side. So you do all 3 of them at the same time. A little bit different. So this becomes 0, and you're left with x in the middle. And notice how I just copied those inequality symbols down exactly like they are above. Be careful on this one because they are not exactly the same. Now, -3 plus 2 leaves you with a -1. 4 plus 2 is 6. Go to your number line. Now that x is all by itself, we do just like we did the other one. Here's my 0. Here's -1. And there's 6. Okay? -1 is my smallest number. It has a bracket because less than or equal to takes the bracket or the closed-in circle. up here is my 6. It's going to take a parentheses because only an inequality without the equal sign uses either the open circle or the parentheses. And remember, it's the sandwich effect, so you fill in the middle. And there you are. I think you've got what you need now to do all the inequalities that you have coming in this particular assignment. Good luck.